I got to get this cabin done. I have so much other work to do that I had neglected because of building this cabin. So I need to get it done so that I'm not spending my entire summer working on this cabin. And because I have to get this done, I'm going to put you on a time lapse or a video that I've created. It's a little bit different. It is a time lapse, but it's also one that means a lot to me, and I spent a lot of time on this video, and so I hope that you'll enjoy. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and leave a comment below. And if you would have done something different, go ahead and write that in the comments. But I thank you for watching. I thank all the new subscribers, all my subscribers. And I just thank you all, and I'll see you in the timeline. This cabin was a dream of my son who passed away in March of 2022. His name was Kevin, and he knew how to honor us as parents. We loved him so much. So Mom decides, I'm going to get down here and build this cabin for him. But there's a lot of prep work to do. I finally have a path that I can come down. I was thinking about in the front doing the walls short and the walls on the sides angled toward the rock. I'm laying out the design, moving rocks, making sure it's all measured the way it needs to be. One of the most difficult things were getting building materials down this hill. My husband, Orion, Reese, and Sam helped me get these materials down, and I couldn't have done it without them. You had to hand carry down the steepest part, and because of slip hazards, it became very dangerous. This build posed several problems because you could not have anything square. The only thing you could have is plumb, and so you just had to go with the shape of the rock. Many times I just sit there and look at the awesomeness of this cave system. The framing connecting the roof to the wall posed the same problem in that nothing was square. And now it's time to install windows that I got from Facebook Marketplace. That none of them are the same size, but they were inexpensive, so I used them. Made do. Kevin loved this place. He called it Narnia, and we named it Narnia with a Knarnea. We'd talked about building an earth bag bunker down here, and originally that's what I was going to do. That quickly changed when I realized how many rocks were down there and how difficult it would be to fill up sandbags. We couldn't haul a load of dirt down there. Just bringing the tools down was difficult enough. Each of these windows were different sizes. The window on the right, for example, is an inch smaller than the window on the left. All of them were like that. Yes, I could have made it out of natural materials like logs or firewood or even the stones. But that's really difficult for me, being on uneven terrain and being the age that I am. So I opted for the easiest way, which wasn't easy at all, as this was a very difficult build, and it took a lot of energy and thinking and sore muscles to build this thing. Because I was using a roofing insulation, they come in panels, and it's the solid core foam, spray foam, and then they have this thick cardboard on the outside. I used that on the inside of the walls and never sheathed the outside with plywood to save money, and then put house wrap on it. Just getting this door down here was a nightmare, so I had my husband help me install it. And of course, I thought the siding was never going to end. You see, I put this siding on when I built in our porch as well. And I said I was never going to do this again because I hate putting all this lap siding up. But here I am. So you can see the bunker quickly turned into a cabin. And I'm glad it did. It turned out beautifully. And Kevin would have loved it. And because there's no even surface in the front of the cabin, I had to take time out and build a little deck so that I had a flat surface to put my ladder on. I was terrified of the ladder, and every time I'd get on there, I'd nearly fall because it's uneven everywhere. And as you can guess, there's torrential water that flows over the edge of the cliff. And so it was essential to put an overhang on. Between the cabin and the rock above, I used hydraulic cement and stucco to seal it off good. For the siding, I used picket fence panels because I could form them pretty easily to the rock, and I wouldn't have to worry about cutting great big sheets of material and scoring it to that rock. It would have just been too awkward for me. And it kept the cost down. And on this far side, you can see I just used all the pickets that I had that had been used for previous projects. Here you're seeing where I stuccoed the siding to the rock. And I did that all along the edge on both sides. Then I spray painted it so it would look like the rock. 2 different colors. Now I'm building a frame so that I can connect the floor inside the cabin to the rock floor inside the cabin. Our son Kevin would bring our grandchildren down here and play make-believe with them. They'd pretend it was Narnia, pretend it was Bridge of Terabithia. Just loved the place, and so it was so exciting to be able to do this for his memory and for my grandchildren. I then spray foamed the frame to the rock and then stuccoed over after I'd cut the spray foam off. To fill any gaps in between wood and the rock ceiling, I'd go ahead and use chunks of the foam board insulation and spray foam. And of course, everything was stuccoed. All the cracks in the rock, everywhere. I wanted to make sure no bugs, no critters, no nothing could get in, because I was having animals come in at one point when it wasn't closed off. This is the side that you see when you walk down the hill, and I'm just putting the siding on here as well. This side was a little more difficult because it was bigger and I had to crawl up underneath the cave or the rock. Of course, all the rock had to be cleaned and scrubbed, and here I'm scraping this mud off of this rock. And everything had to be spray foamed to make sure it was sealed good. For the inside paneling, I used fence pickets as well, cutting off the dog ear pattern at the end and butting them up together, not lapping them. it just made sense because of the rock. And because they're much easier to carry down than big sheets of material. I used some used metal roofing panels for the bottom half of the wall, and picked that up at Marketplace off of Facebook, of course, so paid hardly anything for it. And it turned out quite nice. Of course, I sealed all of that, plugged all the holes. Because it's so dark in the cabin, I decided that I was going to use the smoky, clear plastic panels. That way it lets light in and still sends the water down away from the cabin. And here I'm building my bridge. I still have a lot of work to do on it, but my son Michael, he carried these big logs down with the help of his family and put them in place so that I had a place to build a bridge. You can see these insulation panels that I'm talking about here in the wall. We picked up a pallet of these panels at the Restore, Habitat for Humanity Restore. It was a real cost saver and paid only $40. I'm moving the stairs to the permanent location and adjusting the handrail. I still have a lot of work to do on this. Kevin was always worried that things were too difficult for Mom and Dad, so he was always trying to find ways to make the farm and things easier for us. He'd take all his resources, his time, whatever he could, to try to help and figure things out. He was also the one that got me to revive this channel after his death. He'd always encouraged me to do so. So after his death, everything that he thought would have made this farm functional, we did. And he was right, it did help. I wanted to add some more hydraulic cement here to make sure that no water or moisture could get into the cabin. I'm mixing this hydraulic cement with my hands, and it's horrible to use. I've painted most of the rock floor with garage floor paint. I installed a solar light. And I want to note that Orion helped me do a lot of this floor. Of course, in a cave, you need a solar fan so that you can keep the moisture out. This works really great when the sun hits a solar panel. Our son would have been so excited over this cabin, and we know he's looking down, just smiling upon us. And this build entirely took me out of my comfort zone, and my husband's as well. Next to my husband, Kevin was my very best friend. And when he passed, it devastated me. He lived here on the property, and we spent hours and hours talking. But turning that grief around and putting it into something I know he would have loved changed my whole outlook. I had felt broken until I started working on this cabin, and working on this cabin changed everything for me. It's funny how you go through life and think, this is how life's going to be. But in a blink of an eye, everything changes. And it may not change the way you think it should change, but guess what? That's our cross, and we have to pick it up and carry it and I carried it right into this cabin. Kevin loved life, and he always gave thanks to God. And he wouldn't want me to sit around sad and depressed. So now I wake up in the morning and I'm excited to run down and work on the cabin. And it's just changed everything. This cabin really made me think. It posed many different problems, but I always found myself finding the right solution. Thank God. Being an introvert like I am, this was a perfect fit for Mom. Being down here where I could be alone and just think about things as I worked. Of course, when you're using spray foam, you have to go back and cut it all. So I always had like this mess of cut off spray foam at my feet. And one of the things that I don't like to do very well is to use caulking. It seems like it never ends and there's a million cracks between a million boards. But I got through it. I really enjoyed working with the stucco. I didn't like the hydraulic cement because it set up too fast and it wasn't pliable like the stucco was. I found that with every completed project, every little thing that I could see was being done, I would get excited. And this excitement drove me and pushed me to my limits. And if I learned anything from building this cabin, I learned that all things are possible through God. You just have to have some determination, some passion, and perseverance. And with God, you can do anything. So if I can leave you anything, it's don't be stuck. Being stuck is just a waste of life. Get out there and do those things that you've dreamed of doing, those things that you think are impossible. I look at it like this. If a 66-year-old woman can climb down a 150-foot embankment, hauling building materials and build a cabin in a cave, you can do anything. Nothing's impossible. It's just finding the solution. After painting, I was able to see more cracks that needed to be stuccoed, so I went back and stuccoed them. And here, Orion had just scrubbed the rock, and now he's sealing it with a sealer, a masonry sealer, every inch of the wall and the ceiling. He's using a flashlight so he doesn't miss anything. That's why I love when Orion comes to help, because he's so thorough. I'm finishing out the window framing now, doing the trim. It posed difficult problems because the windows were all different sized, but I eventually got it. Now that everything's sealed with caulking, it's time to paint. And with every stroke of the brush and every screw I screwed in and every board I put on the wall, all I could do was think about Kevin. And now, instead of tears, I found myself smiling with pleasant memories. I went back and touched up the floor. I saw places that needed to be restuccoed, so I went ahead and did that as well. Now it's time for the floor. I didn't have to pay anything or spend anything on this floor because I had a roll of flooring from redoing the cabin out back. So I rolled it out and I'm gonna get it cut. On the bench, I am tacking down some padding so that I can have a real bench there. And here I have put vinyl tiles that I cut down and then put trim boards over the top of it so that it trims it off. And below, of course, on the flooring, I also trim it out. I had done many projects after Kevin's death, but this one was different. One of the projects I did was redoing his cabin that he lived in. But I did that so that I wouldn't have to be reminded of him, as it was so shortly after his death. This was different because this was his suggestion, his dream. I decided to use a thick rope for trim on the floor, between the floor and the rock. And I also used it to define the wall from the ceiling. I'll show that to you later. Kevin gave us so much while he was alive. He gave us love and respect and honor, and I was always so proud of him. Not that I'm not proud of my other sons. I truly am. I love them. They're each their own individual. But Kevin lived here, and he was one of my best friends. And so I am so grateful for all that he gave me while he was alive. But the remarkable thing is, in his death, he continued to give. I know this is strange to say, for in his death, truly came life for me. And I've always said, I've always taught my children that you have to embrace the bad to feel the good, because you'd never feel the good without the bad. And that's truly the case here. So the bedroom's entirely finished now, and it's time to finish the rest. I've also included a list of the total cost that it took to build this building at the end. So are you ready to see the inside of the cabin in the cave? Take a look. I hung rope trim, as I told you before, between the wall and the rock. It was tough getting the futon down the hill, but thank you, Reese and Sam, and Grandpa. Yep, this is gonna be my she shed. When I need to go connect with nature or just spend some time alone and get a break, put my head back together, this is where I'll come. My son Kevin was my inspiration. He gave me a place that I can come and think about him and not tear up, but always smile. I'm so thankful to him and to all of those that helped. Richard, my husband, Orion, Reese, Sam, Michael and Christy, and Mikey, and most importantly to God, our Creator. And I dedicate this video to my son Kevin. Thank you, son. But it's not over yet. I still have a lot to do. So make sure you subscribe, leave a comment below, and give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching.